Hi everybody, and welcome to Healthy Bites. My name is Shauna Schultz and I'll be your host today. Healthy Bites is a collaboration between Nevada County Media and Nevada County Public Health, and I am a nutrition educator and registered dietitian for the CalFresh Healthy Living program. And CalFresh Healthy Living provides nutrition education and physical activity education in the community. And I'm really excited to be here today to show you some healthy and tasty and affordable and also family-friendly recipes. And so for today's episode, we'll be focusing on two really easy side dishes to put together. They work well for the holiday season, but they also work well on their own anytime during the year. And they can be pretty versatile depending on the season as well. So we'll be making a kale salad with pomegranates and a wild rice dish with some toasted nuts and dried fruits and some herbs. Both are really lovely, and you can find both recipes on eatfresh.org. So they're available there along with lots of other healthy, easy, and affordable recipes. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll start with the wild rice dish. Very easy to put together. So I've already cooked some wild rice, and wild rice, when you buy it, actually looks a lot different than when it's cooked. When I bought it, it was just little slender black grains, and then when you cook it, you can see that now it's kind of more like a toasty brown color. And you can always follow the package directions for how to cook it, but the way that I cooked it was with 4 cups of low sodium vegetable broth and 1 cup of the wild rice. And you'll need to simmer it for quite a while. You can bring it to a boil, bring it back down to a simmer, and it probably took about 50-55 minutes. But again, just check the package directions on whatever wild rice you buy. So this has been cooked and it's been cooled. Wild rice, nutrition-wise, is very similar to brown rice. It's a really good source of fiber, and it has lots of vitamins and minerals. And that fiber in there really helps keep you full. So it is considered a whole grain, and that counts towards your whole grains for the day. All right, so we have our wild rice. It's been cooked. There's probably about, I'd say 3 or 4 cups there, somewhere in between. Next, all we're going to do is we're going to add some nuts. This over here. So I toasted these nuts ahead of time. We have probably about maybe almost a cup here of some toasted pecans and walnuts. And I'm just going to give them a rough chop. And you could really use any kind of nut that you want to. There's no hard rules here with what you have to use. But now that, we're in fall time, we see pecans and walnuts a lot. And when you toast them, they develop a really nice flavor. They actually become a little sweeter too. Sometimes nuts can be a little bit bitter when they're raw, but when you toast them, it's a whole new experience. All right, that looks good. Lots of nutrition packed in our nuts as well. Walnuts are actually a good source of omega-3 fatty acids. And pecans are a really good source of healthy monounsaturated fat. All right, so we'll sprinkle those in there, and then we're going to add a touch of sweetness with some dried fruit. And you can use really also here whatever dried fruit you want. But I have about maybe 1/3 of a cup of some dried cherries and some dried cranberries. And I thought those would go nice together. Cranberries always seem to pair really nice with nuts. So we'll give these sticky little guys a rough chop as well. And dried fruits are also a really good source of fiber. And when you get these fruits that are a really bright red, they're a really good source of phytonutrients, which are just natural plant compounds that act a lot as antioxidants and protect your cells from all sorts of damage. All right. All right, so let's get these guys off our knife here. I think you could also use dried blueberries, and that would be wonderful and tasty. All right. The remainder in here, and we'll just get every last little bit. Get our little crumbs here of our nuts. All right. And I'm going to give that a quick stir just to get everything incorporated. And then we're going to add some flavor. I'm adding some lemon juice and some olive oil. The lemon juice will help give it some brightness. And then we'll add some parsley at the end. All right, so it helps with your lemons just to give them a quick roll. It helps soften the cell walls, and when you do this, you get a lot more juice out of the lemon. All right. And I think that we'll put a half of a lemon in here. All right. I've got this handy dandy squeezer. It's my favorite tool. I think it's my kitchen tool that I use the most. Second would probably be my blender, but I juice a lot of lemons and limes. They add great flavor to your meals. All right. And then maybe just a couple tablespoons of olive oil. You could get creative and you could use a flavored olive oil, like rosemary, or like an Italian herb olive oil, or even like a garlic olive oil would be yummy. But just plain is fine too. Right. The lemon makes it smell super delicious. All right, that looks good. And then we'll go ahead and we'll add a touch of color and some flavor with some parsley. This is a flat leaf parsley, also known as Italian parsley. And you don't have to be too particular about taking all the leaves off of the stems. You can use the stems. I usually just cut off the very end and then just chop the rest. But you can always take those leaves off if you want to, if that's your thing, and that's not a problem. So we'll give this a quick chop, and then we'll chop it a little bit more. Parsley also adds like a nice burst of flavor and just kind of gives it like this earthy freshness, and it goes really well with rice dishes. All right. Do one more go around here. All right. Put this into our dish. Every last little bit. Alright, give that a quick stir. And then I'm going to add a few pinches of salt. If you happen to use like a regular vegetable broth, it has quite a bit more sodium in it, so you wouldn't really need to add any salt, but you can always add salt to taste, how you prefer. And that's it with this, my friends. That is super easy to make. I'm going to put it in a dish so that we can enjoy that later. All right. So this would go really well with a holiday meal, or even just as a side dish for, you know, whatever you're cooking that night, whatever protein you're having. And here's our finished product. So very easy, super delicious. I'm going to set that aside, and then we'll get started on our kale salad. All right, just going to switch these out real quick. Okay, so our kale salad, of course we have kale. We also have some pomegranates, which are in season right now and super delicious. Also contain a lot of what's called anthocyanins, which act as really powerful antioxidants for your body. And then we'll be adding just a really simple olive oil and lemon vinaigrette, and then mixing in some toasted walnuts. And then as a garnish, we'll add some toasted coconut. which is optional, but it tastes really, really good with this salad. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about kale. So kale, I know, is not everybody's favorite leafy green, but when you take the kale and you massage it with a little bit of oil and something that's acidic, like lemons, you have that physical act of breaking down the kale, and it breaks down the cell walls and it releases its sugars, so it's a little sweeter, and then it becomes a lot softer. And so it tastes much sweeter, not bitter, and soft. So it's very palatable that way. And it's the way that I've found that I can get my kid at home to enjoy a kale salad. So hopefully you'll try it at home and like it. So we have our kale here, and I used green curly leaf kale. And all I had to do was just tear the little leaves. You don't have to be uniform size off of the stem. You could, save your stems if you have animals at home that eat stems, or you can just toss them. My dogs actually love kale stems, so whenever I use kale, I can just take off the leaves and I feed the stems to the dogs. All right, and then we're going to get this all massaged, and then I'm going to show you how to cut a pomegranate. So for a very simple and quick vinaigrette, in here in this jar I have a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and then I put a little bit of sweetener in here, about maybe like a teaspoon of honey. All right, so that's what I have in here already. And then we'll add our lemon. This lemon's nice and pretty soft already. And we'll use the whole lemon. We're not going to use all of this vinaigrette, so you would have some left over for whatever you want to use it on. I actually think it would taste really good on the rice dish as well, so you could use it for that. You can use another type of sweetener if you prefer. Maple syrup would be lovely. Agave syrup would be lovely. Or honey. If you're using something like plain sugar, I would heat it first so that it dissolves. Otherwise, it will stay pretty grainy in there. All right. Okay, there's that. We'll add a little pinch of salt. And then we're going to add some Dijon mustard. Maybe about a teaspoon. There we go. You could add garlic if you wanted to. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. We'll put our lid on the jar, and then we're just going to give it a quick shake. I really like this method because you have everything in the jar. It's less to clean up, and then you can just put it straight into the fridge. And something like this would last for at least a week in the refrigerator. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so we'll start. It doesn't take much of the oil and the lemon to coat this kale, even though it looks like a giant bowl of kale. It doesn't take a lot to add to get it nice and broken down and soft. So I'm going to add a couple tablespoons, and we'll start working with that, and we'll see where we get. So to massage, just like other massages, you use your hands. And you just get in there, and the oil and the lemon juice starts to coat the leaves pretty quickly and easily. And some kale is a little more sturdy than other types of kale. The leaves on this kale were actually kind of soft already, so we don't really need to do like a ton of massaging. But if you find that you have like tougher leaves of kale, then it just might take a little more work. But you'll notice that as you start to massage the kale, it becomes like a much brighter color of green. That's just part of breaking down the cell walls. And you'll also notice that now, just kind of like when you cook spinach, you don't have such a large amount. And then, of course, as you continue to let it sit, it will become a little softer as well. So I would maybe make this, you know, maybe not like the day before you're planning to serve it. Make it the day of, or even just a couple hours before, because it will get softer as it sits. All right, so we have our beautiful kale here. We're going to add some toasted walnuts. You could use any kind of nut. Again, it doesn't really matter. So we'll give them just a rough little chop. So my plan is to serve a salad like this during some of our holiday meals. It's because it looks so pretty on the table too. And it has all these nice in-season fall ingredients. All right. We'll sprinkle our nuts in there. Okay. Now, let's talk about the pomegranate. Pomegranates can certainly be messy, and some people look at them as kind of like a mystery, like how am I going to get the good stuff out of there in an easy way that's not too messy? And so I've tried so many different hacks that I've seen on social media or on TV, and this is the one that works best for me. I already have some that I've processed and gotten ready, so they're ready to go in the salad. These are called arils, so they're pomegranate arils. And so I'm just going to show you how to get started on it. So we have the stem here of the pomegranate, and we're just going to cut like a little square around the stem so that we can get, more or less, get the top off. One more little corner there. I'm going to go through one more time just to make sure it's easy enough to get off. And this looks like a nice, pretty juicy pomegranate. All right. So sometimes it might need a little bit of help, which is fine. We'll just lift it off with our knife. All right, so here's the beautiful inside of our pomegranate. And then when you look inside the pomegranate, you'll see the areas where the white pith is. And I'm just going to kind of use those as our guide to cut down. It's down. We need to go almost all the way to the bottom. And we'll do this on each side. So with this size pomegranate, it'll end up being around 4. But if you have a larger pomegranate, you may end up doing more. And when we do this, we can easily kind of break apart each section. And it's nice and messy, which is the fun part. And then we can take each section and we can kind of just break it apart. And that actually helps release some of the arils. And then we can just kind of work the other ones out. I would do this over a bowl so that you capture all of them. And I'm only going to do this one little section here. You can also do this in a bowl of water. And that can be helpful because if you happen to get like any of the white like pith parts in your mixture, they kind of end up floating to the top. Just makes them easier to get out rather than trying to pick them out. But just doing it straight over a bowl works well as well. So we would just continue to do that with each of our sections. And we have our little pomegranate arils. Fortunately, I have some that are already ready to go. And we will add those to our salad. This was about 1 medium pomegranate. Kind of looks like Christmas in this bowl right now. And we're just going to give it a quick little toss, and then when we put it in our serving bowl, we'll garnish it with some coconut. And that's it. That is all that is required to make this fall-inspired salad. So let's get some into a bowl. We'll add some coconut. All right. Pomegranates kind of like to try to sink to the bottom. Let's see if I can get some up top here. We just have some coconut flakes. I'll sprinkle some of those on top. And we have our beautiful bowl of kale salad. That's it. So 2 easy, simple side dishes. Work well for the holidays, any time of the year. We have our wild rice dish with fruit and nuts, and then our kale pomegranate salad. And I hope that you get a chance to try these at home. Again, the recipes can also be found on eatfresh.org. And thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time.